Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and in this tutorial I'm going to make the opponent bat here move automatically to try to intercept the ball, although at the moment the ball's still not bouncing off the bat, so we'll have to fix that shortly. And I was thinking that we were going to have separate classes for the two different kinds of bat, the opponent and the player, but I've realised that we can actually get by just fine with just having one bat class, because the game only sends touch events to the player bat. I don't know why there's suddenly an error in here, because this is working. Well, anyway, we only send touch events to the player bat, and we're only going to update the position of the opponent bat. So when we call in here, we're going to call player.update, but we're not going to call we're going to call opponent.update, but we're not going to call player.update. And I don't know what's going on here, so let's just take a look at this error. So it says that set position float is undefined for the type bat, and yet I just showed you code that was working, and I haven't changed it since then. Maybe I'm looking at a game. I think I was looking at a game file from a different project. My apologies. Okay, so let's carry on. So what I need to do is I need to add an update method to this bat, which I then call in the game class. Let's go to game here. It will help if we go to game in the right project. So this is the game. It's my game class, and I'm updating the ball, and let's now call opponent.update and pass the elapsed time to that. And I'll save that and then click on this error and go to create method update and type bat. So I only call opponent.update, I don't call player.update, because the player, the actual human player, will control the position of the player bat. So here's my newly created method, and now what I can do in there is just put some intelligence that controls the position of the bat. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, in this bat class, I keep thinking of Batman for some reason, I'm going to give it a private random equals new random. So we need a random number generator, and I think I'm not using this. I'm not using a random number generator yet anywhere in here. So let's add the input Control-Shift-O, and in update what I'm going to do is, and this is a really simple algorithm that I figured out very quickly, so I'm sure you could think of one that's much better, but I'm just going to firstly get a random number from the random number generator. I'm going to say I'll call it decision, and I'll say int decision equals random.nextInt 20. So that's going to give me a random number with 20 different possibilities. So it's going to be from 0 up to and including 19, but it will never actually be 20. And then I'm going to say if decision is equal to 0, and if the decision's equal to 0, well, what I'll do is I'll also give this a direction. So I'll say private dir and private int dir direction, and I'll just save that. And in init here I'm going to initialize dir to either -1 or +1, or am I? Yeah, let's do that. So I'll say dir equals random.nextInt, and we'll use the same technique as before. I'll say random.nextInt 2, so that gives us a random number that's either 0 or 1, and I multiply that by 2, and now it's either 0 or 2, and I subtract 1, and now it's either -1 or +1. So the direction is initialized randomly to -1 or +1, and this is going to be the direction in the y direction, so it's going to mean either up or down. And when I update the position of the bat, what I'll do is I'll say int y, actually float y I think, equals get y, and later on I'll say set y, and meanwhile we'll do something to y, and what we'll do is we'll have a speed as well as a direction. So let's go to the top here in the bat class, and I'll say private float speed equals, and I'll try 4.0f, and we'll see how that goes. So a value of 4 in floating point. And in between getting the y and setting the y, I'll say that y plus equals direction times speed times elapsed. See how this looks. So the speed's going to stay the same in this algorithm, and elapsed is the elapsed time. And I'm going to intelligently change the direction to make it look as though the bat is being controlled by some entity that's attempting to hit the ball. And so I get my random decision from 0 to 19 inclusive, and I say if decision is equal to 0, I'll set the direction equal to 0. So that means the bat will not move, because this will be the stuff we add to y will be 0. And I'll say else if decision equals 1. So the idea in saying if decision equals 0 is that this will happen 1 out of every 20 times, and then another 1 out of every 20 times we'll say if decision is equal to 1, this will happen 1 out of every 20 times. Then we'll pick a random direction. So let's just copy this up here, paste it in here. So I'll say that the direction is randomly either -1 or +1. I suppose I could condense that into one line actually, but that will do just fine. And else if decision is less than 4. So now this is going to be happening 1 out of every 10 times, I think, because we've already handled 0 and 1, but there's still 2 and 3. They're both less than 4. So that's 2 times out of every 20, which is 1 out of every 10. Now, in that case, I'm going to move it towards the ball. And to do that, we're going to have to know where the ball is. So I'm going to go back to my game here, and when I call opponent.update, I'm going to pass it the ball so that the bat has a reference to the ball. And let's add this here to the argument list. And I'm going to say if ball.get, now I need to say ball.get screen rect, which if we just take a look at that method which we implemented, that gets the rectangle that represents the bounding rectangle of the ball actually on the screen. So if ball.get screen rect dot center y, so the vertical center of the ball, if that's less than get screen rect, in other words this dot get screen rect dot center y, so if the vertical center of the ball is less than the vertical center of the bat, then let's make the direction -1. So the ball is the center of the ball is less than the center of the bat, so we want to make the direction negative so that we then decrease the y position of the bat. Else we're going to assume that the center position of the ball is going to be greater than that of the bat, or else it's directly on top of it, in which case we'll make the direction of the bat positive so that it moves, well, it will be downwards, which will be towards the ball hopefully. And let's run that and we'll see if it works. I may have missed out some crucial thing, I don't know. And I kind of derived this algorithm just from fiddling about with it, and it's very simple, and you could do something much nicer. And that's actually true for this game in general. I've really I've not made it anywhere near as nice as it could be, because I just wanted to provide you with a demo. But you could do stuff, for example, like instead of the ball bouncing by just changing direction, there we go, something's happening. We could make it that the ball is always accelerating, and when it hits something it could sharply decelerate and change direction, and that would make the ball really look like it's bouncing, which would look a lot more elegant and more interesting rather than just keeping it at a constant speed. Anyway, you can see that it's working, but the problem is that it tends to disappear off the screen. So I'm going to put an extra check in here, and I'm going to say down here if let's say if the top edge of the bat is off the screen, so if get screen rect dot top is less than 0, that means that the top edge of the bat is off the top of the screen, and I want to make dir equal to 1 to start increasing the Y position of the bat and moving it down the screen. Else if get screen rect dot bottom is greater than, in fact let's just make that less than or equal to, although that is being a bit picky. If the bottom of it is greater than or equal to the get screen height, I think we want to say, then it's going off the bottom edge, so I want to say dir equals -1. So regardless of what decision is made up here, if I want to then override that, if I see that the bat is, oops, I seem to be launching two of them at the same time, if I see that the bat is going off the screen, I want to override that with a more sensible decision that will tend to bring it back into the middle of the screen again. So this is hopefully about to run, and in fact it does run, but you can't probably see it on the emulator, but the bat's actually jumping up and down like a thing possessed at an incredible rate. So I'm just going to tweak this a bit and pause recording of this video, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back, and what I did was I changed the speed of the bat to 0.4 f, and now it looks pretty good, and you can't really see it on this screencast. In fact, the screencast seems to have frozen, but yeah, it's coming through bit by bit. But if I look at my phone, I'm sorry that you can't see this, but it does actually look quite reasonable. The bat looks a bit like it's controlled by someone who's on sort of methamphetamine or something. It's a bit hyperactive, but it is nevertheless, it's doing the trick, and it's a lot of the time it will intercept the ball, and sometimes it misses it, which is exactly what you want to give the player here a fighting chance. So that's it for this tutorial, and in the next tutorial we're going to make the ball actually bounce off the bats. So join me again then, and until next time, happy coding.